Okay, World History Chapter 20, Revolts in Latin America, Section 3, Key Revolutionaries. So those would be the leaders that led these independence movements in Latin America, and then what were their accomplishments. So we'll look at causes of discontent, Haiti's fight, Mexico, Central America, and then South America revolutions. So when we look at discontent, we've already talked about this before. The way the system was set up, the social system, is that peninsulars, those people born in Spain, they're the ones who have access to the highest jobs, which means they can make the most money. You've got the Creoles who are 100% Spanish, but they were born in the colonies. And they have a ceiling on how high they can rise because they can't get the best government jobs. They can't get the best military jobs. And so here they live in the colonies and they're limited to how high up they can get. And that's going to cause some resentment. Now, at first, it's not a big deal because most of the people are peninsulars. But as things go, and by the time we hit the 1800s, you have a large number of Creoles who are born of Spanish parents or descended from Spanish people who now can't expand and get any higher up than what they are. They're stuck. And so that's going to cause some issues. And then you've got growing numbers of mestizos, mulattoes, and then slaves and Native Americans who are getting sick of this system that's in place. On top of that, you have Enlightenment ideas that are going to inspire Latin America. They're going to read about the things that Locke says. They're going to hear about natural rights. They're going to hear about constitutions and republics. They're going to see the French Revolution and the American Revolution, and that's going to inspire action in Latin America. And then really what you need is you need that one moment that gives people the excuse or the reason to begin to take action. And when Napoleon invades Spain and gets rid of the Spanish king and replaces them with his brother, then people in the colonies are like, that dude ain't Spanish. I have no ties to him. I have no loyalty to him, and I don't really care about him. So now is the moment that we should get our independence because we're not really committing an act of treason because the leader of Spain isn't Spanish. So now's a good time. So what you get is a couple of different revolutionaries. So Toussaint Louverture leads a slave rebellion in Haiti. He got his own. He was able to get his own independence from slavery. He's pretty much self-educated, and he gets inspired by these concepts of liberty. And he believes that what he wants to do is he wants to free the rest of the slaves in Haiti. He's a pretty good military mind. He's a very inspirational person, and the slaves follow him, and there's a revolt, and they're able to overthrow the government. And they're able to defeat the French army. They're able to defeat a number of armies. And as a result of this, Napoleon ends up selling the Louisiana Purchase to the United States because of this slave revolt. When we look at Mexico, there's two priests, Father Hidalgo and Jose Morales, who call out for freedom. So again, they want to make some pretty radical changes. They want to get rid of slavery. They want to give all people the right to vote. They want to set up not a monarchy. They want to get rid of the monarchy. They want to create like a republic. And what happens is at first, Iturbide is against this. He's a very conservative thinker, and he's afraid of what's going to happen if you get rid of slavery and if you overthrow the whole entire system. So he initially works against Father Hidalgo and Father Morales, but what ends up happening is when Spain reinstates their king and they sign a very liberal constitution, or they create a very liberal constitution, that freaks him out too because he's a conservative thinker. And so what he ends up doing is he ends up reaching out to the revolutionaries, and he says, why don't we come together, overthrow, and let's see if we can come up with a better form of government. He hopes to really expand the size of Mexico to include all of Central America, but he never really completes that work. And eventually those new republics, like for example, Costa Rica becomes an independent republic. And so those places further south of Mexico create their own. Bolivar is the one who leads it in South America. So he's from Venezuela. He is a Creole. He continues his education in Spain, and while he's in Spain, that's when he's inspired by the Enlightenment ideals. And he tours France, and he tours Italy, and he sees all these things, and he has really big ideas for what can happen in South America. And when he's inspired by the Enlightenment, he makes this pledge that he is going to free Venezuela from colonial control. And he seizes this moment with Napoleon's occupation of Spain as the time. And he moves back and he begins to lead this revolution. A couple times he's driven out and he has to go and hang out in Haiti for a little bit. But eventually he comes back and he launches this really ambitious plan where he is going to cross the mountains and be able to attack Bogota, which the Spanish totally didn't see coming. That's the capital of their colonial headquarters, and by taking control of that, then he begins to get pretty successful. Another successful leader is Jose de San Martin, and what's going to happen is these two guys are going to join forces. Eventually, San Martin turns his entire army over to Bolivar, who is then able to move through and free South America. From there, what he hopes to do is he hopes to unite all of South America and to create some kind of a federation or a united South America, just like the United States of America, but in the southern continent. That never really happens because he has a lot of difficulty. Geography is one of the problems that he runs into. It's not as geographically conducive to being united as the United States is. So that kind of prevents it. The other thing is you've got differences in terms of culture and makeup, and that makes it really hard to form this united federation. So that never comes to be. For Brazil, what ends up happening is the Portuguese family is driven out of Portugal. They come to Brazil. While they're there, then they're able to return back to Portugal, and when they do, the Portuguese king leaves his son Dom Pedro there. He says, here's the deal, dude. If they call for their independence, I would give it to them and then just figure out a way for you to become the emperor. So we're still in charge, we're still in power, but you'll let them think that they have their independence. And that essentially is what happens, is Brazil calls for their independence. Dom Pedro agrees to this limited monarchy, and he ends up becoming the emperor of Brazil. That's going to be pretty short-lived because in the 1880s, then they're going to create a republic, a lot like the other countries in Latin and South America.